Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about a John Cusack film, 2012. Now, I didn't actually get around to watching 2012 until the summer of 2016 because I knew it was going to be horrible, so I waited until I stumbled upon a copy of it for sale for $1. And I picked up a Blu-ray for $1 of it at a flea market, and so I finally got around to watching it. Now, I didn't expect much from this movie. The premise itself is absurd because the Mayan calendar did not end at 2012 in the sense that most people seem to think it is. It ended in the same sense that the calendar I have on my bathroom door ends on December 31st. The calendar ends, and you go buy a new calendar. It's just that the Mayan calendar was a long count calendar. It covered many, many years. And at the end of that, what happened to coincide with our year of 2012 meant that it was time to start the next cycle. It was not meant to signify the end of the world because well, people love a good conspiracy theory and they love apocalyptic predictions. We really do. I understand that. So I wasn't expecting much. So the premise of this film is that the world is coming to an end and something must be done to preserve humanity. So our main character, John Cusack, is known as Jackson Curtis, which is, by the way, 50 Cent's actual name reversed. His name is Curtis Jackson. The director is a fan of 50 Cent. So Jackson Curtis is a writer who has one published novel to his name, which has sold very few copies. I believe they mentioned that it sold 450 copies, which does officially make him a published author, but doesn't necessarily make him all that popular or wealthy. And he's been working a series of short-term jobs, which his ex-wife really has no confidence in, which is probably one of the reasons that he has an ex-wife, though he still has a strong relationship with her and his kids. And the film's premise is that the sun, big solar thing in the sky, has somehow mutated neutrinos. Now, anyone who has even the most basic understanding of subatomic particles in physics will be looking at me going like, did you just say mutated to neutrinos? Yes, I did. Now this was filmed in 2009. Now in 2009, I'm not even sure we had detected neutrinos yet, but we have since then. But it's hard to do. It doesn't happen often, and there is no precedent for it. There's no like surefire method that's always going to give us a wonderful data stream of neutrino information. It's still in the developmental stage. But the film takes the premise that we have been detecting neutrinos for so long, but there's some minor variation in the data. That's proof that neutrinos have mutated, not proof to say maybe your parameters of your experiment were off. Now that in itself is weird. Subatomic particles just don't mutate. We have predicted the existence of subatomic particles decades before we found them, and we were right. So subatomic particles just don't surprise us. But the thing is, those subatomic particles in this film have mutated into microwaves. And the microwaves are penetrated the Earth, and they have taken our liquid core, which we already have, and made it more liquidy. But the film takes the premise that we don't have a liquid core. The very center of our planet is liquid iron, and on top of that is liquid rock. And all of our continents float on liquid rock as they move around. Because all the other continents are always moving. Always. Called tectonic plates. Okay, we think they go under each other, they go on top of each other, they smash together. There are all kinds of stuff going on there. They come apart. The Mid-Atlantic Rift is getting wider. The Pacific Ocean is getting narrower. Now, one science fiction book I read years ago talked about the Great River, and they're referring to the Pacific Ocean, which is now narrow enough to be constituted as colloquially as the Great River, even though it was still salt. And the whole thing is all understood. We've understood tectonic plates at least to some degree since the 70s, and we have a really good understanding of them now. Right? Ballard was part of the whole process of getting information on that. I thought that was interesting. Now, if microwaves are warming up the center of the planet, as the planet rotates and the sunlight hits the planet. That would mean these mutated neutrino microwaves would be going through all the matter on the surface of the planet before it got to the center and made our gooey center even gooier. And these microwaves would cook all the matter on the outside of the planet completely, giving it a nice toasty char, sterilizing the surface of the world. Yeah. Now, I understand the premise of this. They wanted a disaster, and they wanted it to be an epic global scale, so they could have an epic global three-dimensional, I think it was actually a 3D movie at one point, three-dimensional movie. They wanted this huge scope. They wanted tidal waves and earthquakes and the whole 9 yards. But they didn't do the research to make it sound reasonable, and they didn't actually make the earthquakes seem work the way they wanted to until they started making them work the ways they don't work. For example, when I started having all these cracks in the ground, cracks just don't appear in the ground. Those are going to be associated with tremors, big ones, and they're going to shake up the entire area, collapsing all the buildings around. You're just not going to see a nice, neat little crack appear down the middle of the road and the buildings on either side be untouched. It doesn't work that way. So can you understand this is absurd? So the information is given to the governments talk to each other, and they conspire to build some great arcs. Literally great arcs. Our main character is privy to some of this because he's employed by a mega rich dude, and he also bumps into a crazy guy in a park who has somehow gotten the map of where the arcs are being built. So as things finally kick off and everything starts going to heck, he gets his two kids, his ex-wife and his ex-wife's wife or boyfriend, I don't remember which, piles them into a vehicle and starts driving. Now, every single time this guy gets behind the wheel of a vehicle, or anyone in this film gets behind the stick of a plane, the vehicles do things they can't do in real life. Within the first 30 seconds, any of the vehicles in this film would have been destroyed, and they would have stopped, and the film would have been over. Vehicles just don't do what they do in these films. But they did this because they wanted a roller coaster ride. In the sense that, I believe it was a 3D film, they literally wanted a roller coaster ride. It was stupid. It was really stupid. So, the characters eventually all get to China, the important characters, and they get on board the arc through subterfuge. And we find out that there were actually originally 10 arcs planned. 4 of them got built in time, and 3 of them launch. And one of them that launch is the one with the people on board, and because they snuck in, they damaged one of the gates, one of the actual hatches on the vessel, I should say. And because the hatch hasn't closed, the engines of the ship won't start. Now stop for a second and think about this. You're building a ship that's supposed to survive the greatest cataclysm that has ever encountered humanity, that is possibly our planet has ever encountered since the planetoid hit it and made the moon. This is the worst thing that has ever happened. And you built a boat that will not have its engine start if one single hatch doesn't close. Even though you have blast doors which seal off that area so the water can't flood into your ship and endanger it, it's not going to sink. It's going to float like a son of a gun, but it's not going to have any engines because one single hatch isn't closed. So you didn't plan for the fact that maybe your ship would suffer damage during this process, and maybe something on the outside of the ship may be harmed and spring a leak. You put blast doors in, so you plan for part of that. But you didn't plan enough to make sure that the engines were not connected to that gate. So instead of, they had to rush and they had to unclock the gate and the gate closes and, whole 9 yards, they couldn't, just switch the circuit out. Pull the circuit out, short circuit around it, and then to go. No, couldn't do that. So we had this big dramatic thing about the main character and his son saving the day, even though they're the ones that caused the jam because they snuck into a ship that they did not have passage on board, and off they go. So you have these 3 ships. They got probably about 350, 400,000 people on board, all 3 of them. Okay, which is enough of a genetic diversity to keep human beings going. It's got all kinds of information on board, all of our records. It's got a bunch of historical pieces, documented books and arts and that stuff on board. And after 6 months of bouncing around the oceans and all sailing around, I'm assuming they're nuclear, they discovered that the continent of Africa survived. Somehow the continent of Africa floated up when all the other plates were going all over the place, and they mentioned it was 2,000 feet higher than it was before. If that's true, we're in trouble, because none of the animals and life forms on Africa are suited to that elevation, and most of it's going to die. So we're going to say it raised up and then it settled back down to its original level. Now remember, the amount of land on the planet is probably going to be the same, but most of it's going to have been flooded with seawater, so it's not going to be usable anytime soon. But I don't imagine that we're going to lose all the land masses. But you've got Africa. Now, Africa has 1.1 billion human beings on it. And if the worst possible scenario happened, half of them die. All the ones at all the coasts have been wiped out because of the waves. But the continent itself survives. But those in the inner make it. So you got 550 million humans. Along come 3 boats with people on board. Now, there's plenty of space for them at the moment, so that's not a problem. But you cannot see the symbolism here? 3 boats with mostly white people on board? Here to colonize Africa? It's like the white man's burden all over again. It did make me smile knowing that in the future, humanity's going to be brown. Because those white people are going to be absorbed into that Afro population, and Caucasian is going to become very rare if it exists at all. That made me smile. But it was just really, really dumb that the way they set this up, they wanted the cradle of life to survive, because the cradle of humanity is Africa. Intact. I mean, the outline of the continent, they showed it, looked just as like it does now. But you got these, boats with Europeans on board, all ready to colonize. Now realize that many places in Africa, and it's going to shock you, are first world nations. They're fully capable of revitalizing the human species without the being colonized by white folks. I know that's going to come shocking to some of you. I found this dumbfounding. Really, I did. But the ships were cool. I'll give you that. And they could use those to get around the planet to recolonize the place, because they're going to have to keep those around, because they're the major vessels that survive. But they're not going to be the only vessels that survive. There are going to be boats out there that rode out this, and subs as well. Some of those subs are going to have nuclear missiles on board. And the countries with the biggest number of nuclear missiles is going to be Russia, China, and America. So the people on board those subs from the governments of Russia, China, and America are still going to have access to nuclear weapons. So we're still going to have the same political struggles in the future that we have now. It's just now there are going to be political struggles between different African countries that take in these refugees, and if they're smart, the missiles that they own and control. So the dynamic isn't going to have change. It's just the map's going to be different. All right, I've blathered on long enough about this. This was a really silly, dumb movie. Really, really dumb. Really, really silly. It made no sense from beginning to end. It had no bearing on science whatsoever. Nobody in this film had ever read a book on science or history or geology beyond the 3rd grade. I am ashamed for the writers of this film. If anybody knows what that German word is when you feel shame for someone else, tell me. Because this is just amazing. So if you want something to watch and laugh at, go ahead and watch 2012. But if you're looking for something that makes any sense at all, stay away from this until the calendar changes once again.